Welcome to new viral drama, where Hollywood's polished image gets shredded and the real chaos behind the curtains gets blasted out in full HD. We're talking secret files, courtroom curveballs, and wild confessions that'll leave jaws on the floor. Viewer discretion, absolutely necessary. What you're about to hear ain't fiction. It's the raw, uncut federal courtroom testimony from Sean Diddy Combs' trial, word for word, just as it was reported by inner city press and other official sources. And trust, day 9 did not disappoint. We already saw Ashton Kutcher break down in front of the court. Then came that shocking footage that dragged in more than just celebs. It hinted at something way bigger. But even with all that heat, nothing could have prepared folks for what dropped right after the afternoon break.
So that was just really important to me to help.
The energy in that room, on edge. Prosecutors were huddled up all morning with federal agents, speaking in hushed tones, eyes glued to a sealed evidence bag, one that had only been delivered overnight through an emergency motion. Then boom, at 2:05 p.m., ADA Kelsey Monroe stood up and dropped a bomb. She asked the judge for a media blackout on the next part of the trial, saying it had massive consequences for someone who wasn't even on trial. A third party. The courtroom froze. Judge Miriam Reyes paused, thought it over, and gave a halfway nod. Public could stay, but no cameras, no sketches. Total lockdown mode. Then Monroe calmly walked up to the bench, handed over a USB, and whispered 6 words that sent chills through the whole courthouse. This involves Kylie Jenner. Your Honor! She barely got it out before gasps echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Confusion broke out instantly. Vinny's legal team jumped up like they'd been hit with a taser. We object, irrelevant, highly prejudicial, and way outside the scope, Hastings barked, trying to shut it down fast. But Judge Reyes, she wasn't having it. Sit down, she snapped, eyes locked on the USB drive now clenched in her palm. If this is what I think it is, we're not in scope anymore. We're in a full-blown crisis. Boom, the monitor lit up, lights dimmed, the courtroom braced. What came next? No words, just raw surveillance footage, silent but deadly, stamped and watermarked by a digital forensics unit. The timestamp read September 2nd, 2019, 2 p.m. It showed the hallway of the Homie Hills estate, dim lighting, quiet tension. Then she appeared, Kylie Jenner, in a red robe, barefoot, walking slowly, almost like she was being led, no, escorted, down a narrow hall by a mystery woman dressed head to toe in black. The woman held Kylie by the wrist, tight. Kylie didn't look okay. Her makeup was smeared, that robe was way too big, and her whole vibe, office way off, like she didn't even know where she was. At the top corner of the screen, a gold plaque read, East Wing, restricted. Nobody made a sound, not a breath. Then the video cut to black. That's when Diddy shot up from his seat. No, hell no. That's fake. That's not what happened. Diddy exploded, voice cracking as he smacked a stack of notes clean off the defense table. Pages flew everywhere. Chaos erupted. 2 U.S. Marshals immediately stepped in, closing the gap between him and the bench. Judge Reyes slammed her gavel hard. Mr. Combs, sit down, she barked. But Diddy wasn't hearing it. He stood frozen, seething. You trying to destroy me with this? She came to the house. She drank the wine. Nobody made her stay. Remove the defendant, the judge ordered, voice cold as steel. Within seconds, he was surrounded by officers. But as they grabbed his arms, Diddy shouted again, this time more like he was unraveling. They got the footage? How did they get that footage? His voice cracked again, lower now, like a whisper only meant for himself. Not her, not that night. We wiped it. I told them to wipe it. The court was still, frozen. The jury looked shaken, shock all over their faces. One juror blinked back tears as the courtroom door slammed shut behind him. Then Monroe stepped back into frame, stone-faced. This footage was recovered from the exact same external hard drive entered into evidence earlier this week, she said firmly. It was found during the FBI's raid on Mr. Combs' Beverly Hills property. Metadata analysis confirmed the file's timestamp, internal surveillance origin, and precise GPS location, matching the estate's secured camera system. Judge Reyes gave a slow, knowing nod. And the woman in the footage, has she been confirmed?
Anything that I can do to help, I'm down. And honestly, I have the best doctor in Beverly Hills that's really helped me. Just source out like the best possible, like what really needs to be done.
Yes, Your Honor, Monroe replied, her voice slicing through the tension. Through facial recognition software, time-stamped visual logs, and cross-matched data from the estate's guest operation. The individual has been positively identified as Ms. Kylie Jenner. Then came the second wave, and it hit hard. Photographic exhibits started flashing on the screen one after another. First, a candid shot of Kylie alone in the West Garden that same night. She was sipping from a gold goblet, body turned away from the camera, face hidden, but the vibe chilling. Next, a photo that made the courtroom shift in their seats. It showed the infamous Red Room, the one multiple witnesses, including Cassie Ventura, had already described under oath. Kylie was seated low on a velvet ottoman, beside a mirrored wall, bathed in deep red light, her posture stiff, expression unreadable. But what caught everyone's eye wasn't just her. Behind her, half covered by a sheer curtain, stood a tall man. His face was blurred in shadow, but the chain around his neck, icy, and dangling from it, a diamond crucifix, the kind you don't forget. Monroe didn't say his name. She didn't have to. That courtroom already knew. But the real explosion came next, not from footage, not from photos, but from a handwritten ledger. Yeah, a physical event log, just recovered by a forensic analyst 36 hours before the hearing. One single page, dated September 2nd, 2019, turned the room cold. Guest initials, arrival times, coded instructions. One line read, KJ, handle W Dawn, no front cam. Another, confirm NDA pulled before drink, East Wing only. No full names, no explanations, just protocol, cold and calculated. When the judge asked how the ledger was authenticated, Monroe kept it blunt. The handwriting belongs to Cassandra M., a former scheduling assistant for Mr. Combs. She was subpoenaed last week. Her full testimony still pending. And Monroe wasn't done, not even close. She had more coming. Then it got even messier. An internal text thread pulled straight from an encrypted backup link to one of Diddy's assistants was dropped like a bomb. One message, sent by someone identified as SC, read, "Hey, she's in the tunnel. Get her out before the AM crew flips the room." The whole courtroom froze. The word tunnel, now loaded with weight after the freak-off allegations, hit different. It wasn't just rumor anymore. It was typed. It was real. One juror audibly gasped. Judge Reyes instantly ordered a recess, but nobody moved. Not a soul. People just sat there, stunned, shaken. Outside, media vans screamed it across national TV. Kylie Jenner footage surfaces on day 9 of Diddy trial. Inside, the temperature had changed, fast. When court resumed, Ada Monroe didn't bother playing more footage. She didn't need to. Her next words were enough to set the place on fire. "We intend to call Ms. Jenner as a material witness. A subpoena is already in motion." Boom, that was the breaking point. The courtroom imploded. Gasps, murmurs. Chairs creaked as people leaned in. Kylie Jenner, the billionaire, the beauty mogul, the mother, was no longer on the sidelines. She was officially part of the case, the center of the storm. Then Diddy walked back in. No yelling this time, no outbursts, just silence. He looked shattered, eyes locked on the floor, jaw clenched so tight his knuckles turned white from gripping his own hand. Judge Reyes looked straight at the defense table. "Mr. Hastings," she said coldly, "I suggest you prepare your client for direct examination." Hastings gave a tired nod, but you could see it in his face. He knew the game had changed. The cover-up was crumbling. And this wasn't tabloid gossip anymore. This was the reckoning. Surveillance tapes, inside witnesses, and now Kylie Jenner.
Right here, yes, I'm listening.
Kylie, what's good?
I love you guys.
Love you too. How's
I'm just
everything
listening
going?
and I'm supporting. I
How's
love you
everything
guys.
going? It's important. I like how you stepped up. You know, when the Surgeon General called you out. That's
Oh, of course.
That's how.
Day 9 of Diddy's federal trial will go down in history as the day the red carpet slammed headfirst into the Red Room and Hollywood's fake glamour cracked wide open. By 3 p.m., the trial had already broken the internet. But what happened after that? It wasn't just viral, it was earthquake status. The leaked Kylie footage sent shockwaves through the legal system, and every corner of the entertainment world felt it. Stars, labels, executives, everyone was watching now. When court resumed, Judge Miriam Reyes wasted no time. She dropped a formal protective order on several newly submitted digital exhibits. And just like that, the room knew more heat was coming. Not just images, not just grainy hallway clips. We're talking serious digital fire. This was no longer just about footage. It was about control, about access, about intent. Diddy sat like stone at the defense table, shoulders slumped, barely breathing. One hand clutched the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. His lawyers leaned in, whispering fast, trying to prep him, calm him, something. But Diddy didn't blink, didn't even flinch, just stared straight ahead, red-eyed, shook. Because the courtroom had made one thing crystal clear. Kylie Jenner was at the Holby Hills estate, her face caught on internal cams, her presence wiped from logs, her name scrubbed from guest entries, from staff briefings, like someone wanted her erased. But now, she wasn't just back in the picture, she was front and center. And with court back in motion, Ada Kelsey Monroe stepped forward again. No mercy, no filter. She came ready to finish what she started. Your Honor, we're moving to enter a recovered internal video memo into the record, Monroe announced. It's from the estate surveillance review team, recorded 3 days after the September 2nd event. Judge Reyes glanced over the motion, gave a quick nod, and said, "Proceed." The screen lit up. A digital login screen flickered. Then the play icon appeared. What came next was raw. The footage was shaky, clearly shot on a handheld phone. The camera focused on a cluttered desk with 3 monitors displaying split-screen surveillance feeds from inside the estate. A man's voice came from off-screen, calm, casual, like this was just routine. 9-2 footage needs scrubbing. KJ was flagged. Room 4C, corridor loop, east access, need relabeling. Dawn logged, shadow cleared. Click. Monroe hit pause. Then she turned to the witness currently on the stand, Special Agent Dana Trujillo, the FBI expert who'd already authenticated earlier footage that same day. "Agent Trujillo," Monroe asked, "who recorded this clip?" "This was recovered from a deleted folder," Trujillo replied. "It was located inside a RAID storage unit found during the Homey Hills property raid." "And the voice?" "Our internal review suggests it belongs to a member of Mr. Combs' private surveillance team," Trujillo answered. "Identity withheld under current investigation protocol." Monroe didn't stop there. "And in this context, what does scrubbing refer to?" Trujillo answered without hesitation. "Scrubbing means deleting, altering, or reclassifying security footage, typically to make sure it doesn't show up in legal discovery or during internal audits." The courtroom went ice cold. The message was loud and clear. Somebody had been cleaning up behind the scenes, and now it was all coming undone. "So, the defendant had a full system in place to alter and suppress surveillance evidence?" Monroe asked coldly. "Yes," Agent Trujillo replied. "And Ms. Jenner's presence was specifically marked as footage to be erased?" "Yes." Boom. The courtroom buzzed. People whispered. The weight of what was said hit hard. This wasn't just some accidental leak of Kylie Jenner on camera. This was a deliberate effort to wipe her from existence inside that house, a full-on cover-up. But Monroe wasn't done. Next, she entered an encrypted email thread into evidence, straight from a Proton Mail account tied to Diddy's inner circle. The account had been subpoenaed, cracked, and pulled apart by cybercrime units. Subject line, Cleanup 9-2 Protocol. One email read, confirmed. KJ escorted by D. Red wine served. NDA claims not signed. She left approximately 2:18 a.m. Room was reset. And then the kicker, a final line in bold red text, do not mention her in weekly RAP. The room gasped. Someone in the gallery actually said, "Wow." Judge Reyes squinted at the screen, rereading that last line like she couldn't believe it either. Then she turned toward the defense table, eyes locked on Hastings. "Mr. Hastings," she said sharply, "do you dispute the authenticity of this email thread?" Hastings stood slow, voice barely above a whisper. "We reserve the right to challenge chain of custody, Your Honor. But, as of now, no." That was all Monroe needed. She stepped forward without hesitation. "Your Honor, at this time, we formally move to name Ms. Kylie Jenner as a material witness. We've submitted an emergency subpoena request through the district court clerk." That one sentence flipped everything. The gallery gasped. Jurors froze in their seats. Just like that, Kylie Jenner, one of the most guarded celebrities on the planet, was no longer just a name whispered in legal halls. She was officially a witness, possibly even a victim. And with that new status came serious weight, legal scrutiny, potential federal protection, and courtroom accountability. The kind nobody can dodge, not even billionaires. Diddy lost it. He slammed his fist on the defense table, rattling papers and gasped. "No, No, you don't get to do this. You're not dragging her into this. Judge Reyes immediately raised her voice over the chaos. Mr. Combs, you are out of order again. But he was spiraling. She came to me. I didn't force her. That's not on me. His voice cracked, part rage, part panic, pure unraveling. The bailiffs moved closer, but Monroe didn't flinch. Respectfully, Your Honor, she said firmly. The defendant's outburst only strengthens our theory. He knows the evidence is legit. The judge stared at Diddy for a long moment, then called for a recess. And it wasn't just for legal procedure. The room needed air. Everyone needed air. When court resumed, tension still gripped the room like a chokehold. That's when ADA Monroe called her next witness, Valerie Kemp, former event operations assistant at the estate. She stepped up slowly, hands shaking, tissue clutched tight. But when she opened her mouth, her voice was steady. She had something to say, and it was clear she wasn't backing down. Monroe's voice was calm, but the question hit hard. Ms. Kemp, did you see Kylie Jenner at the mansion that night? Valerie didn't hesitate. Yes, she said quietly. She was with Dawn. She looked lost. Monroe leaned in. Did you approach her? I asked if she needed anything, Valerie replied. But Dawn cut me off, told me to go back to the kitchen. And had you seen Dawn act like that before? Valerie nodded slowly. Yeah, plenty of times, but that was the only time I actually recognized the guest before she got taken inside. Monroe's tone shifted. How did Kylie look? What was her state? Valerie's face twisted as she recalled it. Confused, like she didn't know what she was doing there. Her eyes were darting around like she was trying to process what was happening. Then came the next exhibit, a wine order log from the East Wing's private bar. The guest ID, blank. But the request stood out. Rosé, no sulfates, for KJ Dot. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Ms. Kemp, does that match Kylie Jenner's known drink preference? Valerie nodded again. We had to look it up when she arrived. It was part of the prep. The level of coordination was impossible to deny now. This wasn't random. This was planned. Then came the knockout. Monroe played an audio clip, recovered from a deleted staff group chat, converted to text and authenticated. A male voice labeled M could be heard saying, make sure she doesn't post until she's off the property. Delete all mirror feeds. The robe's already burned. No names, no denials. But the courtroom knew that red velvet robe, the same one Kylie wore in the hallway footage, gone, burned. The defense jumped in, screaming hearsay, but Judge Reyes shut it down, overruled. And in that dead silence, one line kept ringing in everyone's head. The robe's already burned. Like a bell toll at the end of a secret funeral. Judge Reyes recessed court for the day, citing urgent security updates and the need for admin coordination to brace for the inevitable media chaos that would follow a potential Jenner subpoena. But as Diddy was being escorted out, sweating and glassy-eyed, he muttered something low under his breath. A few in the gallery caught it, one phrase that chilled the entire room. They don't even know the worst part. Hastings snapped toward him, whispering for him to shut it, but it was already out. The damage was done. Now the question was everywhere, whispered in hallways, blared on live TV. What's the worst part? And why was Kylie Jenner, the most photographed woman on earth, captured on the one night nobody was supposed to know she was there? The courtroom barely moved, even after the gavel dropped, even after the judge called recess. People sat frozen, as if the building itself couldn't breathe. In the final hour of day 9, something snapped. As Diddy was being taken out, shaking, muttering about the robe, the footage, not her, the air inside that courtroom had shifted completely. This trial had officially crossed into territory it couldn't walk back from. Kylie Jenner was no longer a question mark, no longer a maybe. She was real. She was there. Not just a blurred figure or a red robe in a hallway, but a scheduled arrival. A person with her name removed from logs, her footage erased, her presence buried, and based on everything now public. She hadn't agreed to any of it. Not the cameras, not the wine, not the robe, and definitely not the twisted role she'd been silently cast in that night. I've got a little surprise for you. Those were the words Monroe whispered as she re-entered. And the courtroom knew something big was coming. And now, Kylie's legal team was in the mix, sending compliance letters, demanding deposition protocols, and prepping damage control like a red alert had just hit their inbox. It was official. Kylie Jenner had cracked the wall, and Diddy, who had spent decades dodging, denying, and shutting down every accusation tossed his way, was unraveling, right there, in front of the jury, in real time. Prosecutors understood the moment was fragile. The weight of it could either crush the case or solidify it forever. So Monroe moved carefully. After recess, she stepped up calm and focused, 3 sealed envelopes in her hand. She placed them on the evidence table. "Your Honor," she said, "these next exhibits include the final roster from the September 2nd surveillance recovery, audio logs, visual feeds, and internal protocol documents. This will be the last reference to Ms. Kylie Jenner without her legal team present." Judge Reyes gave a stiff nod. "Proceed, but with caution." What came next wasn't more scandal. It was worse. It was cold, systemic, procedural. Monroe introduced a seized exhibit titled VIP Guest Management, Restricted Nights. It was a detailed operational flowchart pulled from the federal raid, a map of the Holby Hills mansion, showing entry points, room assignments, access tiers. Every guest was categorized by color: black, red, gold, white. Kylie's name was never fully written out, but her initials appeared twice, both times marked under the same code: Red Velvet, Observer, no record. That label meant she was placed on an invisible tier, deliberately shielded from surveillance, excluded from logs, and tracked only through hidden internal systems. She wasn't just invited, she was handled, tracked, recorded, stored in a separate hidden archive now referred to throughout the courtroom as the library. Monroe's voice didn't flinch. "This wasn't some wild house party," she said. "It was a system, a full-blown infrastructure designed to assign people roles inside that mansion." Then she called her next witness, Travis McClain, a digital archivist, former contractor, hired through a shell media company tied to Bad Boy's private event division. Travis was the one who helped decrypt pieces of the library before parts of the server were wiped clean. "There were names you'd expect," he said, "big names, but then a few popped up that didn't belong." He paused, then looked straight at the prosecution. KJ was one of them, and he remembered exactly why. Her file had a red tag, red meant do not circulate. Monroe leaned in. "And what did the video show?" Travis hesitated. "I can't say everything," he replied. "I'm under federal agreement, but..." The room held its breath. "She was brought into the mirror hall," he said, and then the lights cut out. Silence. When they came back on, she wasn't there anymore. The courtroom froze. The defense shot up. "Speculation, no continuity." Judge Reyes cut them off. "Overruled. He's not describing a crime. He's describing the infrastructure." Monroe pushed forward. "Are you saying the footage was edited in real time?" Travis didn't blink. "No," he said. "I'm saying the cameras were built to cut out during key movements. Planned blackouts. Scripted visibility. Kylie Jenner wasn't just filmed. She was monitored inside a machine designed to control what the world couldn't see." "What you see," Travis said, "is who walks in." He paused. Then the feed cuts. You never see what happens inside. The entire courtroom sat still. It wasn't a glitch, he added. It was intentional. Every surveillance stream had built-in fail points, except for one set, the library angles. Those were private, off-grid, hidden. That's when Monroe dropped her next move. She laid out the forensic breakdown. More than 19 terabytes of surveillance footage, wiped from Diddy's internal servers within just 48 hours after the 2023 federal raids. Gone, scrubbed, erased. But the files linked to September 2nd, untouched. Monroe didn't rush. She let the moment breathe. "Why?" she asked the jury, but didn't answer. Because the silence said it all. That wasn't an oversight. It was a message. Kylie Jenner wasn't just another famous face at the mansion. She was leverage. The gallery shifted. You could feel the energy drop. A billion-dollar figure, one of the most recognized women on earth, had been secretly filmed inside a private event she never consented to. And that footage wasn't erased. It was stored, held back, and maybe even used. This wasn't just scandal. It was strategy, weaponized visibility, controlled exposure. Then Monroe pivoted. She pointed to the screen as agents cued the next clip, recovered from a secure private signal server. One file, 16 seconds long. The FBI's audio division had enhanced it. Then the speakers clicked, and you heard it, crystal clear. The next audio clip started with a woman's voice. believed to be Dawn. Put her in the mirror wing. Tell Sean she's only staying till 2. She's not into it. Then a man replied low and direct, she's not supposed to be. She's just for image. Don't let her leave with anyone. The lights came back on in the courtroom, but now everything felt different. You could hear the jurors breathing shallow. No one spoke, no one moved. Everyone braced for what was coming next. And still, no one was ready. The next recording wasn't from a security feed. It came from a phone backup, recovered off a burner device seized during the Miami raid. The voice was crystal clear. Diddy. The date matched the night after the party. Keep her off the main grid, he said. No posts, no sightings. If she talks, we bury it in fluff. Send roses, get Chris on the phone. The courtroom exploded. The implications weren't just heavy, they were nuclear. Kris Jenner, Kylie's own mother, had been notified. The defense scrambled to object. Hearsay, inadmissible. But Judge Reyes didn't strike it. She simply said, it will be weighed accordingly. In that single moment, the Kardashian empire was dragged into the courtroom, not as bystanders, but as gatekeepers. Monroe knew exactly what she was doing. She slowly closed her binder, looked each juror dead in the eye, and dropped the final hammer. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, steady and cold, this was not a party. This was an engineered, documented index system of influence and entrapment. And Kylie Jenner? She wasn't a guest. She was a pawn, a high-value image used to shield something far darker behind closed doors. Diddy walked back into the courtroom like a ghost, silent, stiff, and cold. No more outbursts, no shouting, just a locked jaw, and that same stone face he'd been wearing since Kylie's name blew the roof off the trial. But the moment Judge Reyes announced that the prosecution was now working directly with Jenner's legal team to schedule closed-door testimony, you could see it. Diddy's jaw clenched tight, sharp enough to crack bone. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispered something low. But his lawyer didn't say a word, just stared straight ahead. And then came Monroe's final statement, soft, controlled, and devastating. She's ready to speak. Boom. Court recessed, but outside, the media world went into full-blown meltdown. CNN, BBC, TMZ. Even foreign policy outlets were covering it now. Kylie Jenner to testify. Diddy meltdown confirmed. Jenner files found in freak-off folder. The headlines were screaming. Inside the courtroom, officials started locking down security protocols, prepping for what would be one of the most high-profile testimonies in legal history. But while all eyes stayed on the screen, one question hovered, heavy and unspoken. If someone as rich, protected, and powerful as Kylie Jenner could be pulled into that house, who else was never meant to get out? And that's where we leave it for now. But trust, it's far from over. If this shook you, click the videos on your screen now. We've got even more exclusive breakdowns on this wild case. Don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This is new viral drama, and we're not done yet. See you in the next one.